Hello, beautiful mom leaders. Welcome to Conscious Champagne Chat number 44 today. I'm in my car. I hope you do not hear the rain too loudly. We have a public holiday tomorrow, so I just quickly went and ran some errands, and I was like, I feel like going live in the group right now. It feels like a good moment to come in here and see you guys and meet you and talk about sibling rivalry, the do's and don'ts of sibling rivalry. And I'm going to share with you two, quite honestly, very simple strategies that have done wonders for me and that have really minimized, the bickering and the that is going on at home. Now, for those of you who are still new to my world, my kids are now, my son is 11, my daughter is 8. And we've had an interesting phase, especially the last 6-7 months, because they would actually, for the most part of it, get along really well. They could play for hours and, be in their own creative worlds. But about 6 months ago, I think my son has discovered his teenage side, or he wants to be cool, and so he's really very hardly trying. He's trying to separate from her because he does not want to be a child, and so that's caused a lot of frustration and lots of sibling rivalry in our household because my daughter is very, she's very frustrated that he doesn't want to play with her anymore, like childish stuff, right? He wants to watch movies that are 12 years and up, and which he can't do, and he doesn't want to play Lego or Playmobil because it's just not cool anymore, right? So sibling rivalry, what does really work? What I'm going to share with you is one strategy that I use all the time when they're right at it. When they're right in there, they're throwing words at each other. Maybe they're even hitting each other. So I'm going to share with you one strategy you can use to really break up the situation and use it in the heat of the moment. And I'm also going to share with you a strategy you can use that is very preventative of sibling rivalry. Now, I want to be very honest and make one thing clear. The expectation of sibling rivalry going away completely, I think, is an illusion. So part of it is human nature. Part of it is learning to grow up, is learning to deal with conflicts with other people. And, who are we going to have these conflicts with when we're little? It's going to be our siblings because we see them. Those are the people we are exposed to most of the time, right? And so I don't believe it's ever going to go fully away. And quite frankly, think about just, you and your spouse. I mean, even if you're happily married, you still have arguments, right? So it's definitely never going to go fully away, but you can for sure minimize it using the strategies that I'm going to share with you. Now, if we think about sibling rivalry, what are the causes? Very often it's jealousy, right? A very common scenario is you have a new sibling coming, the baby has arrived, and then, oh my God, I had this so big time. My son was 3.5 when my daughter was born. And he was mad with me. He was not mad with the baby, luckily, but he was mad with me. And so there was a lot of jealousy involved. And sometimes it's directed towards the baby, right? Now, competition is another one, which can lead to sibling rivalry, or in general, just fighting, which often comes from a lack of their needs being really met. And that's where you have to use the preventative strategy to make sure that their cup is filled as well. Okay? So, but now let's go into when they're just about it and they're fighting over whatever they're fighting with. I mean, there's tons of reason and it's different in every household, right? But for example, let's say they're fighting over a toy, right? Or over a plush animal, and they're like right at it, and one is pulling on the one leg and the other one is pulling on the other one, and they're like, no, it's mine, but no, it's mine, I want to have it. And so one of the things that I do, if you have it right there in the heat of the moment, one thing that I do is I play kind of the silly person. So sometimes I literally, if they fight over something, I will go in and make a big drama out of it. And I will go and say, "What are you doing?" And I'm pretending to be the toy Oh my God, guys, I hope you can hear me because the rain is really loud. Let me know if you can hear me. If not, I might have to record this again. So I go in and I pretend I'm the toy or the plush animal or the thing they're fighting about, right? And I pretend to be that thing. And I basically go in and say, oh my God, you're pulling my legs out. What are you doing? You're hurting me, right? And so it's kind of the purpose of doing that is, okay, thank you. The purpose of doing that is to just get your attention, just to get their attention. Because they're gonna go like, what's going on? Like, is she crazy? That's usually the looks that I get. But it works to get their attention. Now that I have their attention, here is what I do. I separate them, and I was like, you go over here and you go over here. And then I give each of them the chance to share what is going on. And the rules are made that, like, they know these rules. The rules are one person talks, the other person needs to listen. And sometimes I have to, like, you know, they, like, if they're in heat of the moment, of course they, like, want to talk over the other person. And I go like, okay, hang on. Like, I literally go like this. I'm like, hang on, let the other one finish. And so what works with that is, first of all, you do not take a side. You do not take a side. That never works, right? You've been there. Have you been there? I've been in those scenarios. We tend to take the side of the smaller ones because we feel we need to protect them. And then the older ones are always like, oh, but you're always on their side. Because we tend to do that, right? Especially if we see the older one hitting the smaller one or it doesn't really matter. Then we tend to judge the one who's hitting. So it's very important. You cannot judge. You cannot take a side, okay? So separate them. Have each of them speak out what is going on. How do you feel? I want to hear from you what is going on right now. And so let each of them share their version. Give them a few minutes to get out their frustration, you know, what's caused them to fight. And then you're like the mediator. That's your role here, you guys. You're the mediator. And then you basically just say, okay, so what are we going to do with this? What do you suggest we're going to do? Let them solve it. Ask questions. They can do it. You will be amazed about how smart they are to come up with solutions. So ask them, separate them, first get them to share get them to share their version, ask them for a solution. And then one other very powerful sentence that I asked them is, very powerful question is, what do you think you could have done differently? What could you have done better? Especially when they are using words against each other, right? You were so annoying, you were so you were this and you were that and you did that and you did that. What could you have done better? Help them navigate themselves. Help them to understand. They are yelling right now. Thank you. Well, go and use it. There you go. Go and use it right now. And help them understand that they are not dependent, like they don't need the other person to validate them, right? The other person cannot make them feel a certain way. They have the power. We need to teach this our kids, that they hold their own power. And it starts also with holding themselves accountable and saying, what could you have done better? And I tell you, you will be amazed about what they come up with. They actually know. It's like, oh, I shouldn't have taken the toy, or I shouldn't have, pushed him down like the bed, or I shouldn't have hit him, or they know. And then it's a reflection moment for them, right? So that really, first of all, it's kind of humorous, it's fun, you take the seriousness out of the situation, and you teach them how to take their power back and how to solve the situation for themselves. Now, the preventative strategy that I use, and this is particularly helpful when it comes to competition and jealousy. So when your kids are fighting over competitive things or they're like jealous over the other person, which they're just jealousy comes from their needs are not being met. They feel very insecure, and competition comes from they don't feel like they're good enough, right? And so what really, really helps with that is to do dedicated dating time. Like I used to call it mommy-daughter dating or mommy-son dating. And so other people call it like mind, body, soul time, for example. The important part is you pick 3 times a week, 7 times a week, 1 time a week. That doesn't matter. You pick whatever feels like the right amount to you. And you can pick as little as 5 minutes or 10 minutes that you get to spend with your child one-on-one. It's one-on-one. It's very, very important. One-on-one. Now, if there's smaller kids, pick a time that is linked to something they understand. Like you can't say 7 p.m. because they don't understand it. So pick it to like, we do date night, or we have our dating time before dinner, after dinner, or before you take your bath, or when you come home from school. Like attach it to something, right? Like piggyback it to something basically. And so the rule of daytime is your child gets to decide what you're doing. This is very important. Your child gets to decide what you are doing. And you sit there with them for 10 minutes and you are being at the service of your child. And I tell you, you're going to learn so many valuable things about your child. You're really going to get to know your child. You really understand what your child needs, what matters to your child, what doesn't matter to your child. You cannot say no. You just sit there. You observe. You're being with them. You co-create with them, but they get to make the rules. And you're just being of service. Now, of course, you can set some pre-rules, like it cannot be like we're watching TV together, right? Because that would be ruining the whole point. But other than that, like if there's 1 or 2 things that do not make sense for me, it was like no TV and there's no iPad. But everything else, they got to decide what we would do together. And it's been the most beautiful, amazing moments I've spent with my children, because that's where you truly, truly connect. And what happens is then their cup is filled because they see that they matter. They see that you care about, like you really care. I know you think you care. Like of course we think we care about our children because we're moms, but we're doing it in a very superficial way. And this is the beautiful being 100% present, very deeply connected way. And so just let go of, when am I going to do this? I don't have time for this. Look, if it's important for you to bring in harmony into your household, if it is important to you to have less of the fighting going on, then you are going to take action on this. And then you're going to do this. Like if you do nothing on it and you expect your children to solve it for among themselves without you guiding them, without you mediating among them, it's not going to change. Okay? So you're the master here. You got to go and walk the talk and show them how to do it, my friends. Now I'm going to leave you with one last thing, kind of just something to reflect on. How do you argue with your spouse? What's the way you fight with your spouse? Because often our kids actually pick up on that as well. So don't be surprised. And I'm just going to leave you with that. And I would love for you to share that here in the chat and just see what kind of aha moments do you have. How do you argue with your spouse? And do you see that in your children? Yes or no? All right, my loves. I'm like death right now from this crazy rain. I don't know what's going on. It's super cold in Germany. It's not very nice. So I'll be seeing you back here tomorrow, and I'm going to talk about mom anger, which is my most passionate topic. So be here and learn how to break the yelling, blame, and guilt cycle. Mwah. Take care, my loves. Bye.